Hi, welcome to today's devotion as we continue on our whole journey with the coronavirus and our isolation and everything, and as we continue to talk about hope and all that Christ is to us. Uh, I wanted to remind you about a friend that I had, and that many of you knew at one point. His name was Bill Preeford. Bill was born blind, and he really was an interesting fellow. He always wanted to be a part of what the men did with the men's wilderness stuff and everything. So we actually had him join us a couple of times for the skeet shoot that we used to do, and he would shoot the shotgun. Now, I know that sounds really dangerous, doesn't it? Having a blind guy shoot a shotgun, but he would hold the shotgun, have it all ready. Pastor Ralph would help line him up, and he would shoot at the target as it flew out of the trap house. And one time, in 25 shots, he actually hit two targets. Well, that was one of the things Bill wanted to do. And another one was one time we had a group of men who climbed Mount Washington. We went on a short little backpack trip. I think it was like for 3 or 4 days. And Bill wanted to go along. And so we decided, uh, okay, we can do that. Now, he didn't carry his backpack, as I recall. We carried all this stuff for him, but then he went up the lower part of Mount Washington with us up to a place called Tuckerman Ravine. And in that, he would go along, and the trail was pretty steep, it's pretty rocky, winds back and forth. And he would go and he would hold on to the shoulder of whoever was guiding him. And he would hold there and just walk along beside or right behind. And he was amazing to watch how he was able to do that. Now I'm talking about that. You might have blind friends. I have another friend who is blind, and very difficult. Made me think about all this because of a verse that was shared with me actually a couple of days ago from Bev McDonald, as she wrote in the Caring Bridge, just reminded me of a great verse in Isaiah. It's Isaiah 42:16. Let me read that to you. He says this: I will lead the blind by ways they have not known. Along unfamiliar paths I will guide them. I will turn the darkness into light before them and make the rough places smooth. These are the things I will do. I will not forsake them. Isn't that a great verse and a great remembrance? Now, I know that as Isaiah was writing there by the Spirit of God, he was talking especially about Israel and Israel coming back and God's restoration of Israel. But I believe that we can also take a look at that and say, we can also apply those truths to our lives. The first is right at the bottom where he says this: I will not forsake them. During this time of isolation and everything, sometimes people really feel alone. They feel like they don't know what's going on. Maybe that's been your case. Maybe you feel like, I just don't know. Is God here or not? And I want to assure you that God is here with us. He has promised, I will not forsake you. In the book of Hebrews, it's a very well known verse where he reminds us that Jesus says, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. That's what he is saying here. First of all, just remember that God has not forsaken us, not in any regard, not in any way. He hasn't suddenly left the planet. God is still here, and he has not forsaken us. That's his promise as he writes here. And then one of the things he says here is, as I do this, as I as I go through this whole time of not forsaking you, these are the things I'm doing. I'm leading you as if you were a blind person. He says, I will lead you, the blind, I will lead by the ways they have not known. Well, that's where we are. Among unfamiliar paths, I will guide them. Certainly, we are in a strange time. We've never been here like this before. Then he says, I will turn the darkness into light before them and make the rough places smooth. When you think about someone who is blind and having to walk through life, certainly if they were out in the woods like we were, walking along that path, winding, rough, up, down, and somebody had to guide Bill. I mean, that's the only way that he could have done it. And God is saying here, look, that's what I am being to you. I am guiding you. I am walking you through this, and I'm not leaving you. You know what? It would have been so cruel, wouldn't it, if we had taken Bill up that path on Mount Washington somewhere and then just abandoned him. That would have been cruel because he would have had no way to get down. He wouldn't have known where to go. We wouldn't do that. And God doesn't do that with us. He goes before us. He keeps going. And he promises these things that he will uh, lead us, he will guide us. He shines the light. If you've ever walked outside at night, or if you've been out in the woods at night, which many of us have, and if you don't have a light to show you where to go, you can get in trouble, can't you? You can either step in ditches or trip over rocks or run into trees. But the light shows you where to go. And that's what God says he is. I will shine a light before them. And even this, I will make the rough places smooth. So there's no tripping or stepping into ditches or anything like that. That is the absolute love that God has for us. I'm interested in one part of the verse here where he says, these are the things I will do. That's God's promise. These are the things I will do. That word things, actually, the root of that word is actually word or speech. You could, I suppose, translate it this way. These are the words I will do. I, I don't know exactly why the translators picked things. They did that in other places, but I was intrigued by that because the truth is the way that God guides us, the way that he shows us to go is his word, isn't it? And that's what he does for us. And so even though we're feeling blind, even though we're feeling we're on a rocky path or a windy path, a dark path, we don't know what's coming up. God says, I'm there with you. These are the things, this is the word I will do, and I won't forsake you in it all. God does guide us, doesn't he? God does lead us, and we so desperately need that. I know I do. I need God to really guide me, and you do too. This is what he does for us. How does he do that? How does he lead us? How does he guide us? Well, I already mentioned the word because he does that. And so that's one reason why we say so much. We need to spend time in the word. He uses his spirit and he does that for us. That's what he does. He guides us, he leads us. God will direct you. Ask him to do that. Let him be your guide as you go through things, even today. He won't abandon you. He will direct you. And we can rejoice that he does that for us, even in these crazy, hard, unusual times. So today, take time to trust him because he will guide you.